The hosts and guests on Everything's Messy podcast are not licensed healthcare professionals. The discussions in our episodes are not personalized medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for medical guidance. Never delay seeking professional medical advice or emergency assistance because of our podcast. We encourage consulting with a healthcare professional before making any significant health changes. By listening to our podcast, you agree to the disclaimer. Thank you for listening to Everything's Messy podcast.
Yes, yeah, that's what happens with what I'm noticing. Let me say it like this, and this might be a little bit triggering, but I'm doing it on purpose. Fasting is the most recent trend that's causing a lot of fat people, men and women, and it's because that when you I watch it all the time. I'll get on the call with someone, and they're like, "Dr. Golman, I'm 30 pounds overweight," and I go, "Ask, what have you been doing?" They go, "Oh, fasting. I love fasting," and then tell me, "Why do you love it?" And like, "Oh, it's great. I feel really good." And then, well, then why are you on the phone with me? Well, because I keep gaining the weight back. And
then it's not working.
So, right. Yeah. I go, exactly. And they're like, well, that's not working if you're losing and coming back.
Hey, welcome to Everything's Messy podcast, where we celebrate the beautiful but messy life experiences that most, if not all, people go through. Get ready to embark on an exciting journey through the raw and unfiltered stories of everyday people. Here, we dive into messy realities of life, from making messy mistakes to triumphs and everything in between. Are you sensing a theme? That's right, it's messy. But this just isn't about the mess. It's about finding strength and resilience in the midst of it all. We'll explore how health, fitness, and wellness play a crucial role in navigating life's twists and very messy turns. And we'll challenge conventional systems, because sometimes the most unconventional paths lead to the greatest discoveries. Join us as we embrace the messy, beautiful, and endlessly fascinating stories. Each episode is a testament to the power of our messy journeys and the beauty that emerges from the mess. So grab your favorite beverage, coffee, sparkling water, whatever it may be, and prepare to be inspired. Are you ready? Let's get messy. Hey everybody, welcome to Everything's Messy podcast. I am your messy host, Sarah. Today I've got Dr. Cody Goldman in the messy house. He is a quantum life and health coach by way of an Army tank commander. It's kind of cool. And author of 4 Secrets to Weight Loss. Welcome, Dr. Golman.
Thanks for having me.
Very excited for you to be on the show. So let's just take a little pivot right there. So Army tank commander, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was at, I joined the military when I was 17. And so that experience was where it really led me to natural healthcare and ultimately led me into why I help people with weight loss and health.
That's pretty cool. Thank you for your service. That's amazing. Really appreciate that. And so let's get messy with fat today. I've got a lot of people that listen to this audience that suffer from chronic illness, maybe slow metabolism. A lot of us, unfortunately, going through perimenopause. And, you know, recently, well, it's been about a year now, I started really doing strength training and weightlifting and went to go see a nutritionist. And they said, okay, so you need to have, I think they told me at the time, like 180 grams of protein, which I didn't weigh 180 at the time, but that was the number somehow they came up with. And ever since then, I've struggled to get that much protein. That's a lot of protein. And sort of balance that with, you know, macros, micros, the other kind of nutrients that we need, when really I just want to be strong and fit. It's not working. And I know there's a lot of us that, like I said, have this chronic illness and we're kind of stuck. What's the deal?
Yeah, honestly, those are all great topics, great questions. And I happen to focus primarily on women in their 40s and 50s. And I didn't, you know, that just... I'm originally a chiropractor, and I ran a very large wellness center in Denver, and I'd focused on chronic disease with people, and I wasn't really focusing on weight loss. But what I saw was my patients, which were 75% women, were doing Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, paleo, keto. They were doing all of it. And what happened was they would lose the weight. If they lost weight, they would lose weight. And then in about 3 to 6 months, they'd gain it all back and some. So that's what made me really kind of go like, what's going on? Because I really just didn't know what Weight Watchers was doing. And so I started digging into it. And I used the same philosophy I've used, understanding like our medical system is based on principles that are, that your body cannot heal itself. So it's the first principle that the medical system was based on. These are, if you look up the wire, where this is from, Yeah, it's not like I'm saying it's bad or good. It's just,
Right. Well,
yeah,
they
it's
wouldn't make
based
any
on,
money if it could heal
yeah,
itself.
yeah, exactly. So it's based on the principle that you need something from the outside to help your body heal. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Our bodies, if you knew how amazing our bodies were, and this part, what I do is spend time to make sure that people are educated in it. You wouldn't be in fear about your body catching cancer or catching some kind of disease. It doesn't work like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I took the same principles of what I use to help people heal from cancers, sickle cell anemias, AIDS, migraine headaches, thyroid problems, and I applied it to weight loss. And the some of the principles were, well, are we, number one, are we treating a cause? That's what's happening with most of our medical system. We're not treating causes. So I looked at weight loss and I looked at what everyone's doing. And they're literally doing it's the same principles that medicine is doing, is patching up symptoms. So most weight loss programs are patching up symptoms. They're not actually treating causes. And that's what becomes frustrating. Right now, it's a fact, if you can even Google this in the US, that 80% of all the weight loss programs in America, 80% of the time you gain all the weight back within a year or sooner.
It's so frustrating.
I know. So yeah, what profession on the planet or even program that you did it and 80% of the time it failed? And so that's really what got me on this track. So,
and the fitness and nutrition industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, I'm assuming, because they have all these repeat customers.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So kind of, because you had kind of a lot of things you presented. So I want to kind of like maybe compartmentalize them so we can talk about them. Because you're like, what I heard you say was, hey, I heard about menopause, what you mentioned, that's a big deal, and maybe hormone-related stuff. Also, I heard you say, like, hey, I just want to get strong, and I'm kind of confused with like the eating and the exercising.
Yeah.
So kind of the first piece is, let's just start this one at a time. The first thing is that I've watched that nutrition and exercise has gotten too complex and confusing, and that you don't know what to do because there's just so many conflicting things. And a lot of it really is not, like we said, it's not based on treating underlying cause. So kind of the first principle here is to understand that your body readily uses one of two fuel sources, just readily, okay, which usually it's fat or sugar. So if we look at your body from a prehistoric standpoint, for 25,000 years, it'll use fat and sugars in different moments, okay? And what we used to do is we would go chase a deer or whatever it was, or forage, use our bodies, we'd exercise, use our bodies, and then we'd bring it back and we'd eat and we'd feast. And then we feast. And then what would happen is your body, you wouldn't get food for a while. There was no grocery store or anything like that. So you would basically we're calling it fasting, but you weren't trying to fast. It was just you didn't have food. In those moments of fasting, your body loves you so much that it decides to store fat on you, because so fat is the best fuel source for the human body. That's the first thing people should really understand. Your brain when it burns fat, you are clear. You have high processing power. Your emotions, if people want to get over depression, anxiety, start burning fat. Okay. Energy, sleep, amazing movement, no joint pain. Your digestive, your gut bacteria are balanced when you're burning fat. On the other hand, when you're burning sugar, you're feeding bad gut bacteria. Most women start having more problems with their glands. Now, there's many glands in the body, but the medical system has made disease very popular for women. Matter of fact, the medical system has made being a woman a diagnosis. And your age. You go, well, you're a woman. Oh, that's it. Yeah, you're a woman, and now you're 40. Now you got two really bad things going for you.
Yeah.
And so that's why I love, as a man, just to literally call this out as absolute bullshit. I love being the sort of presence of that.
Yeah.
That's not true.
Well, and then they proceed to gaslight you, whatever you tell them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Because, right. So this is why I'm kind of want to back women up. And this is what my mission has been for the last few years. And so that's why I even wrote the book, The 4 Secrets to Weight Loss. So this first thing is, your body, when you're born, you are a fat burning machine. There's references even in the Bible about sacrificial animals, but it's the fat that they're sacrificing. They were talking about because the fat is such a powerful fuel source. So when you're born, your hormones utilize fat. And over the years, with increased stress, with it could be physical, mental, emotional, usually in moments of stress, people tend to search for sugar. and they're taught to search for sugar. Along with our food companies everyone knows they just dousing.
Yeah.
You start looking at your nutrition label, it's sick. It's
terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah. Your kids go get yogurt. I went through 46 brands of yogurt at the grocery store a few months ago, 46 brands. And I found that it was about 5 of them had very low sugar. I mean, the ones you think are the healthy Greek ones,
they're not
loaded with sugar.
Yeah.
So this is important because it's been slowly seeped into you. Okay. It's been slowly seeped into your body. And so whatever you give your body over time, it eventually becomes efficient at burning. So the increased stressors, which we tend to search for sugars, and the sugar has already been dumped into your system, it actually creates a hormonal change in your body.
Wow.
This is both men and women, but I focus on women because women take care of their health much faster than men do. Men are slow and dense, and they need a lot of pain to make choices. This is how it is. I've been doing this for a long time. Well, it's across the board: chiropractic, dentistry, the whole industry. Women take care of themselves better. So that's why I speak to women, because then they actually bring the men in after they have change. So what happens is your hormones, there are several hormones involved in this, but leptin and ghrelin are 2 hormones that are really not talked about very much. But with increased stress, divorce, sometimes a marriage is increased stress, kids, having a baby, these are stressors in the body. With increased sugar consumption, and by the way, alcohol is included in that. Alcohol is a direct sugar shock.
Sure, it turns right to sugar.
Exactly. What happens over time is leptin and ghrelin, and instead of identifying fat as a fuel source, it's like a flip, or a switch is flipped. It switches over to sugar. Now, how do you know that your hormones have switched over? It's pretty straightforward. You're having cravings for bread, cereal, rice, pasta, or sugar, or alcohol. Your body starts craving it. Okay. And people go, oh my God, I have cravings. I got to stop the carbohydrates. You can pull out carbohydrates and sugars, but your hormones are most likely going to win every time. They're very powerful influence, right? So the hormones, are pointed towards that. You're having these cravings. The other thing is chronic disease. So I have watched at this point, thousands of women, arthritis conditions completely gone. I've watched women put on arthritis medications at 40, in their 40s or 50s, and I've reset their hormones back to burning fat, joint pain and inflammation, and arthritis actually gone, completely gone.
And part of that is because they remove the sugar?
Yeah, part of it's removed sugar, but the bigger thing is because, remember what I was saying, is when you remove the sugar, it doesn't always reset your hormones. That's why it's a big issue, because people, how many times have you've tried this where you pull out breads, you pull out sugar, you pull it out. We found a way in herbal, we literally created an herbal supplement that is no drugs, no chemicals. It actually resets the hormones. So some people, if you've been a sugar burner for 3, 4, 5 years, it takes a long time to reset. Most people have been doing it for 10, 20 years. They've been burning sugar. So pulling the sugar out is a great first step, but your hormones, if you don't switch them back, it's still looking for sugar. So yeah, arthritis, gut bacteria, is fed by sugar. So bad gut bacteria love sugar. So that's a big one I've seen is women get constipation, irritable bowel syndrome, and then they're labeled with Crohn's and colitis, the whole shebang there. Migraine headaches, low energy and fatigue. I have women labeled with fibromyalgia when truly it was their body burning sugar as a fuel source. So if you imagine you're building your cells and tissues off of sugar, it looks like a lot of disease. This is what the problem with labeling disease is, because you don't ever find out the cause. You just get a label for disease. That makes sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because they want to write you the next prescription for the next pill so they can make money. And that's the terrible part. I've always said on this podcast, we have, bar none, the most amazing emergency medicine that you can find.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's the maintenance of the medicine that we're severely lacking in, doctors just treating symptoms, not treating root causes, not even trying to find the time. And like I said, my experience when I bring them something, hey, can we look at this and this? Well, no, there's no cost to do that. Well, yes, it is. I'm telling you there is, but it's not, you get gaslit. It doesn't work. I've struggled with Hashimoto's. That was a big one. And elimination diet and taking this away and taking this away. And it all comes down to basically figuring out what your body needs to put in it, but then maneuvering the pitfalls of, stressful days, trauma, this and that. Like that's where, it gets tricky. And then, like I said, with just the last year of doing the strength training, being told that I need copious amounts of protein, which I'm trying to reach, but it's really, really hard to reach that much protein on top of the micro and macronutrients. And it just becomes clear as mud. What do I eat?
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So that's really why I stopped people from working out. First of all, the very first thing we do is we stop them working out in the beginning, because I watched so many people working really hard. If you've got 10, 20, 30 pounds of fat on you, you'll go to the gym and you'll build your strength. And what most people get very frustrated because you don't see it. Now, I know that doesn't seem like an important thing, but it really is.
It is.
You don't see your results. Yeah. So what I love to do is I get women to lose 10, 20, 30 pounds in about 40 days of fat. Then when you go to the gym, all of a sudden you see the results. But also I got to make sure I point this out to you is if your hormones are using sugar as a fuel source, your energy is very, very low relative to when it's burning fat. So it is a lot of effort of working out. It's almost like having a little bit of a handicap when you're burning sugar. I'm not saying you are or aren't, but
sure.
But yeah, that's important to look at it. So this is what I see with every single woman. Also, they burn fat and they're like, oh my God, I feel like I have so much energy, because fat has double the caloric burn. So there's 9 calories per gram. And then of course a sugar or a protein has 4 calories per gram. So that's kind of the first principle. But I do want to mention with exercise, this is something that's very big with women. Most women have been unconsciously fed the false idea that your hunger needs to be curbed, that your being hungry is a bad thing.
Yeah.
So what I noticed is most people start working out, they have never figured out how much food they need without working out. And then they go work out and usually eating less. So because
we're always told calories in, calories out. Like that's, yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I take 40 days and I have people stop working out and specifically so that way. And what happens is when they start switching back over to sugar, they start away from sugar to fat, they start feeling better. But what starts happening is they start learning how much food they actually need. So I want to address that with you because you mentioned about that question of like, what are we supposed to have? I've gotten completely away. I don't teach anybody to count macros. I have a life. I want to do things in my life. I think that if you want to be a full-time nutritionist, you can do that. It's just not sustainable. You have a family. I mean, I just want to enjoy my life. We have people weigh their food and we focus on lean meats, vegetables, and fruits. I find when you've got to really count like the amount of grams and all this kind of stuff, it becomes a little daunting, I think. So that's a really important piece is how much food do you need? The first question is, how much food do you need per day without working out? Do you know that, right? And if you don't know that and you go work out, you're basically pushing your body into a caloric deficit.
So is that the resting metabolic rate that you can get scanned at like nutrition shops and stuff like that, and it'll tell you you burn X amount of calories? If
you want to get really confused and count calories, yes.
Okay.
And I say this because so what if you know how many calories you burn? Now you've got to go count calories going in.
Yeah. Okay.
We remove all that, and I know a lot of people do it, but I just don't see it being sustainable. We rely on something really, really powerful that's been really overlooked for I don't know, probably the last 100 years. It's a little thing called hunger.
Sounds so easy.
Yeah, right. Now, here's the problem with hunger right now. If your hormones are pointed towards sugar, your hunger is inaccurate. If your hormones using fat, your hunger is incredibly accurate. Sugar does not tell your brain. It literally tricks your brain into thinking you can eat more. That's why you can eat a box of donuts, but you can't eat a box of steaks.
Yeah.
So, right. So I'm saying that the first thing we do is really try to reset someone back to burning fat, because it's about day 10, we start seeing someone's hunger. And what happens is, this is what's really cool to see. I have many women who they say, Dr. Goldman, I'm getting a little more hungry. And I say, welcome you back to having healthy metabolism, because they've been told with coffee reduce your appetite. Do this to reduce your appetite. That's like saying, listen, you're going to drive across the country and I want to make sure you do whatever you can to not see that you're running out of fuel.
Yeah. Wow.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right. So it's kind of like, how much fuel do you need for just your basic day? And again, it's not from you can get those scans done, but I didn't really want people to count calories. So we weigh our food, and we start with 4 to 5 ounces of lean meats, vegetables, and fruits, and for each meal. And what I see when this happens, when people switch over to fat, most people and women specifically, they say they'll judge themselves for eating too much, and they'll watch their fat drop like crazy. And what happens is their brain starts being rewired. So what I'm noticing is most people have screwed up their metabolism from doing too many diets and working out.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. So what do you say? Lately, I've been reading about this whole like waist to hip ratio and the metabolic health that presents, and it's a better picture than actually having your BMI checked. What do you say to that? Is there any truth to that?
Well, I think the inherent challenge with BMI is obviously the muscle mass issue, but you kind of can't. I love using for women specifically, and men as well, but I love using a small, medium, and large frame size chart, because bone and muscle mass is like from a frame size. You can really look at someone, and you can look at your joints, and you can see if you have smaller joints or medium joints, and there's very easy. Someone can just Google weight, healthy weight for a small, medium, large frame, and by age. And I think that's a really nice, and by height, obviously. But I think it's a really nice way to do it. I don't know, because like that, to answer the question is like, well, if you're a small frame or a large frame, there's women I have who have very wide hips, but there's no fat on them. You know what I mean? It's women who have very small hips. So I wouldn't just look at the hips. I would love looking at all the joints.
Gotcha.
You look at some women there, they have a very tiny top up the waist, and their legs are really big. So they have actually a small frame, but they've considered themselves a large frame. But we don't want to consider fat in our frame, because fat is not part of our frame. It's the bone and muscle mass.
Bone and muscle. Okay. And then so you always hear about visceral fat. I mean, I know there's good, healthy eating fats, but as far as fat on the body, we want to be lean and get rid of the visceral fat.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that. So there's 3 types of fat. So you can have structural fat, which is, so let's say structural, normal, and abnormal. Let's look at it from that standpoint.
Okay.
So structural is the fat between the cells and tissues, like fat that your body harnesses and it needs to be able to have proper nerve conduction and hormone function. So structural fat is very healthy. You're going to have that. Then you have normal fat. Normal fat is the reserve storage that you might need if you go into a deficit.
Okay.
So that's very healthy. Women, that's why when you see a healthy fat percentage, men can be anywhere from 7 to 15%, but women will have like a 20% or higher, because you need higher fat percentages for hormone production, to have menstrual cycle, to have a baby.
There's so many hormones.
Yeah. And it's important to understand that. So we're not judging it. So those are normal. Okay. So structural and normal fat are the normal fats. What's considered abnormal fat is what people are really talking about that actually causes heart attacks and strokes. Abnormal fat is the fat that goes on belly, waist, hips, thighs, and it's also visceral fat. So visceral fat is the fat specifically on heart and internal organs.
Okay.
And what I found was one of the challenges with a lot of weight loss programs, when you lose weight, you're not losing visceral fat. That's why we started focusing so much on resetting hormones.
Okay.
Because you're burning off the fat that you can see here, but there'll be no change in blood pressure, no change in, triglycerides if you really don't burn off the visceral fat. And that has to do with when your hormones go back to looking at fat as a fuel source, right? So we're not just like, I don't have people we completely stop doing caloric deficit stuff, because you lose the fat, but not the fat that causes heart attacks and strokes. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And are they maybe losing muscle as well?
Yes. Yeah. That's what happens with what I'm noticing. Let me say it like this, and this might be a little bit triggering, but I'm doing it on purpose. Fasting is the most recent trend that's causing a lot of fat people, men and women. Yeah. And it's because that when you I watch it all the time. I'll get on the call with someone and they're like, Dr. Golman, I'm 30 pounds overweight. And I go, ask, what have you been doing? They go, oh, fasting. I love fasting. And then tell me, why do you love it? And like, oh, it's great. I feel really good. And then, well, then why are you on the phone with me? Well, because I keep gaining the weight back. And
then it's not working.
so, right. Yeah. I go, exactly. And I'm like, well, that's not working if you're losing and coming back. But secondly, do you really feel good fasting? And most people tell me for the first 3 to 7 days they do. And after that, they don't. And the reason why is you'll lose fat, but your body loves you so much that it won't, it wants to keep the fat on because you keep starving it. So it's just waiting for the next time for you to starve it.
It's hanging on to the fat it has.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when it burns into muscle. And when you go into muscle, that's when you have really major problems.
And it seems to be such a trend with this fast. I know I was actually given advice by my endocrinologist. I'm a type 1 diabetic on an insulin pump. And I was actually told to have better blood sugar control, that I should be fasting 16 hours a day and only eat in a very small time of a window because that would reset. And and that's, of course, realizing now that was not good advice, but I was actually told that.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? That would not be the way I would go about doing that. And also how many people even listen to this? How many of you would ask your doctor about nutrition? Like,
yeah,
see what I'm saying? Most people, most people don't even value. You look at your doctor. I mean, I want to be critical and judgmental. If you look at someone, you're like, wow, they're really healthy. I'd like to figure out what they're doing. I have most people don't ever ask their doctor about it because they don't really value the doctor's health.
Yeah, no, and again, this was more geared towards blood sugar control, but learning, just in this past 2 years that doctors spend an average of 4 hours per their whole medical career on nutrition. That wouldn't be where I'd want to go.
Yeah, exactly. And you inherently know that. Isn't it interesting? Like, and if proper eating and exercise and sleep, these are the subjects that our medical system is not trained on at all.
Yeah. No, it's very sad.
It is.
Do you have any, do you put any stock into when they talk about the circadian rhythm and getting up in the morning and getting your hormones set with the sunlight coming into your eyes? Is there a lot of stock in that?
I mean, there is, but we have, I mean, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of men and women that are nurses and work at night, and your system will reset if you do that. But let me just address that. So that way it's very important, very, very important that you, and these are the basics that everyone hears, but when I start them off and doing this, they really get it, is number one, you must get proper sleep. Weight loss is impossible without sleep. Now, if you're doing this, there's a recent trend of Ozempic and Wegovy, these injections.
We can get into that too.
Yeah, I want to get into that. Let's leave that for that in a second. So, but healthy weight loss is not possible without proper sleep. And it's because at night, your body is so people don't know this, but your fat, which is solid, is broken down by your body at night, and it's actually turned into liquid and you pee it out.
Mm-hmm.
But that process doesn't happen if you don't sleep.
Mm.
So if people just start sleeping, like it's the number one thing. If you want to lose weight, start getting good sleep. The second
is that differentiate between age or gender, or is that just?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I know, because I don't want to give someone a number because then it becomes this pressure of I've got to get this or not.
Sure.
But most people dishonor their sleep mechanism. So
that's
when you're tired,
put it.
Yeah. Like, and this is a God-given mechanism. So like, here's an example. You might be 5, 6 o'clock and someone goes, oh, I'm really, and just feel a little tired. I've had people go drink coffee. That's your body telling you you're tired. Or I've had people go, I'm having this sort of fatigue at night. Like, no, you're not getting enough sleep, So, obviously there's the old, thing of get between 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I found everyone really is different, but, tracking your, using like a Oura ring or tracking with a Garmin watch is very, very helpful. But it's honestly one of the number one things, beauty and anti-aging, get sleep. You don't buy any lotions and creams. Go get some freaking sleep. Seriously. You'll anti-age like you will blow you away.
I had to learn that the hard way after I had my heart attack, and they put me on the standard American cocktail and all of these things that my body rejected because that's not why I had the heart attack to begin with, and it was just terrible. And so I went on. I found ways to holistically heal myself, getting off the statin, getting off the high. I didn't have high cholesterol, didn't have high blood pressure, but that's the standard American cocktail they give. When I started really doing a rabbit hole search on it, it was really sleep and then breathing before you go to sleep. So it puts you in a deeper trance to sleep. It's the best sleep I've ever gotten. I'm a mom of 3. And that's the best sleep that I've ever gotten.
Yeah, exactly. So, and that's so it's like most, I mean, programs and doctors aren't telling people this. It's like, and because it's too easy, because you don't buy anything. You're like, you save money, you just get good sleep.
Right.
So, so yeah, that's a big deal, is the sleep. And there's so many things behind this that I could say, but I found for me, because when you track your sleep, I figured out the specific factors each day that let me sleep good. Number one, it's some type of exercise, whether it be walking or the gym, some type of movement.
100%.
Number two, have I let my emotions move through me?
Okay, break that down. Just like sit with them and process them. Is that what you mean? This
is probably a whole nother topic, Sarah.
Okay.
But most people have no idea what I'm saying when I say that. I didn't. I had no idea what I was saying 3 years ago. I was shown this when I almost died. What happens is most of us sit in our emotion, or we repress it. So we either repress or express. So when emotion comes up, we either push it down by staying busy, by calling a friend, by going to work out, by anxiety, depression, medications. The list goes on. So so we push it down. That's number one. Or number two, we try to express it. Sometimes the expressing is talking to a counselor and you go, isn't that a great thing? I've had people talk to a counselor for 6 years after a loss of a loved one. And I go, at what point does your talking going to clear out allow the energy to move? And I'm being a little harsh on this because I've watched this. What I'm saying is there's a third option that hasn't been presented before. It's in a book called The Untethered Soul. It's in a few different books recently that are starting to come out, but they're saying that most of us never allow an emotion to pass through. So basically what it means is we try to change the emotion, stop it, move it. To sit and let it expand and let it do what it's going to do is scary for people. So if it was to put it into practicality, is if I feel anger, if I do anything except go sit and feel the anger, I'm not going to feel it. And if you multiply that over 30 years, that equals heart attack, or that equals the divorce, or that equals unhappiness, or whatever it is. So there's a whole process behind that I show my patients in the process of actually sitting in the energy. Here's a good example. When, let's say I have someone remove sugar, by the first week is quite terrible because sugar it affects the receptors in the brain that they use,
Oh yeah, you have to detox.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've heard it likened to a heroin addict to detox. It's like worse than that.
Yeah, it's the same receptors in the brain, exactly. So if I have someone say, Dr. Goldman, I'm really craving some cookies and I got to stop myself from doing it. The first thing is that don't stop yourself from doing it. Go sit and feel. You're not stopping yourself from going to get cookies. You're stopping yourself from feeling the urge of not getting cookies. So go sit on the couch. And
because we want that dopamine hit.
Yeah, exactly. Anything you face will not control you. If you keep trying to stop the pain of a craving, it'll keep calling for you. But if you sit in the pain of what it's, oh my God, I want a donut, go sit in the pain of not getting it. It literally passes through you, and all of a sudden you go, I don't even want the donut anymore.
Wow.
This is a very advanced mechanism describing, which, yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail, but it is a very effective process. It's a kind of the way even outside of addictions. Many people that start my program, I've gone to addiction coaching and counseling. They've learned that sugar is bad and these things are bad. And the problem is that addiction is never what it seems. If someone thinks they're addicted to sugar, you're wrong. There's a sub-addiction. Sugar is just helping you to not feel something. A sub-addiction is you don't want to feel something. And it's like, I don't know why, but addiction programs don't ever look at that with people. They don't ever go, why are you wanting this?
Because so this kind of blows out of the water self-discipline and motivation.
Yeah, controlling. Right. Actually, it's pointing against it. You're right on. So let me control my anger. I'll tell you what, me controlling my anger got me high blood pressure. It got me, and let's not just talk about negative emotions. Let me just present this. We do the same freaking thing with positive emotions. Think about orgasm. Let's just talk about that if we can. When we have orgasm, we've noticed what most people do is they hold their breath. Next time someone has an orgasm, listen to this, watch what happens. You'll go, you hold your breath. Okay. Why do we do that? Why don't we breathe through it? Why do we allow it through? There's so much pleasure. We try to literally store it.
Interesting.
Think about a grandma or a mom who just loves their kids so much. They go, I just love you so much. I don't want you to ever grow up. You're storing the positive emotion. Anything you store in your consciousness, positive or negative, will not allow you to operate in the next current moment from full love and appreciation. So the next time you have an orgasm, That's why men and women go, sex has gotten worse than that over the last 10 years. No, it hasn't. You keep comparing and storing past moments, and now all you have is comparison to those moments. When you let energy move through you, your life expands, your health gets better. But that's I would say the number one thing that has been completely missed by our medical system and the weight loss industry is the storing of emotions, what piles on the fat. So when you let the emotions go, right, and again, both positive and negative. Both.
So when you hear like somatic yoga and stuff like that, that's supposed to help you release your trauma and things like that, is that sort of the same lines as releasing the energy, or that's just a good practice because it helps you get in a relaxed state and you're able to feel better and doesn't really have anything to do with actually releasing?
Well, I think yoga is incredible, but yoga, where it really came from, it wasn't what we're doing right now. I'm not saying it's fantastic. I think it's great for movement, stretching, and of course, massive mental benefits. But yoga was about balance. It wasn't necessarily about standing in balance. It was about being in balance in your life originally. And so this is what I have found with myself and thousands of people is if I do anything except go sit in the emotion, I'm distracting myself.
Yeah. And we've got plenty of distractions to distract us.
Yes. I mean, down to the point of like, I used to go put on a meditation, like a meditative, like talk. I'm going to say something that's going to be probably pretty, certainly triggering.
No, let's get messy. Say it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. I found, and I spent 7 years trying to figure out how to meditate. I did every meditation you can imagine. I got to the point where within 10 minutes, I would drop in and I would feel like I slept for an hour. It was a really beautiful thing. The problem I found was when I came out of that, I was right back into the emotional state within about an hour. And what I realized was I was meditating myself away from feeling what was currently here.
Interesting.
Right? So it's like meditation is fantastic. I mean, God, there's so many benefits. But I'm presenting a new way of being, and I'm noticing the impact of my life and others. I believe that if you sit and feel, you will actually tap into your inner guidance. I don't think that emotions were the thing that we think they are. They're guidance, both negative and positive. But if you don't let yourself fully move through it, and look at it like this, when the emotion comes through, there's a wave, okay? And if you sit with an emotion, here's what happens. Let's just say I want to get a donut, right? So it goes, first thing will happen is you go, donut sounds good. That's the high part of the wave, right? Yeah. You're like, oh my God, that could be so good.
Yeah.
If you just let yourself sit in it, then here's what happens next. Oh, but Dr. Goldman told me I shouldn't eat that.
Yeah.
Well, it could be just a little bit, but I'll feel bad after, right?
The guilt, right?
Right. Now, somewhere, check this out. In that example, somewhere, if you said self-control, if you pull out your amazing self-control, if you pull it out here, this is what you store. You store that. If you pull it out here, you store that part of the energy. And so whichever part of the polarity you store, it'll keep doing the opposite. So if you store the like, I want it, and you go, I'm not having it. You get prideful that you controlled it, you'll put yourself in shame. If you store it, at the bottom part of the wave is, Dr. Golman told me it's so bad, I shouldn't do this. If you stop right there, you're literally storing the shame, you'll activate pride. You start going to the polarity swing. So this is this is literally an advanced mechanism. I haven't gotten to talk to with people, but some of my clients that are in the weight loss industry and they're spiritual and they've actually understood this process. It's taken me years to figure this out, but it does blow away what you're saying, the self-control. I'm saying screw self-control. Most of our theologies, you look at Jesus and Buddha, they weren't saying to control your emotions. They were saying to dive in and fully feel what's there. Because from a universal standpoint, this is the wild thing, that good and bad is completely relative. And if I was to say, I used to experience anxiety years ago, when I decided to go sit in anxiety instead of going to work out or call another woman or date someone else or whatever I could do, have sex or whatever it is, or drink. When I started sitting in my anxiety, it was terrifying. It just got worse and terrifying, but it did this. And eventually I came to something called love and appreciation. That's where all the emotions will end up. If you sit in emotion, no matter if you think it's good or bad, good and bad dissolves, it goes away. So as part of what we weave in with our weight loss is you can't just lose weight. You have to actually rewire the consciousness, and letting yourself sit in emotion is what stops the future yes, no parts. The more you make something wrong, there you go. No, don't do it. the more your brain starts having a yes. That's why it's such difficult, right?
Of course, that makes total sense. Wow, that's really interesting. And it does sound very deep, but really quick, when you're talking about the peak, right? And you sort of deny yourself to have it and whatnot, isn't it the actual anticipation of what you might reward yourself with versus what you're actually going to get? So maybe if you just sit in that anticipation point, maybe that curbs it a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what happens, like you said, and the anticipation point is just the top part of the wave, right? So if you sit in it, if you sit in it, like the anticipation, you're going to eventually go to the low point. But what I'm saying is if you make any decisions at the top point of the wave or the low point of the wave, that's when you screw yourself. Most of us make decisions about our relationships, about our kids, our family, our health at the top and low point of the wave.
Yeah. Highly emotional either way.
Yeah. You go like, oh my God, this is a great decision. And then 6 months later, this guy is quite an asshole. I should, right? But if you let yourself go through what I'm saying is you sit in the emotion, it does this. What happens is it looks a little like this. You start balancing out. What's really cool at this point, you will become aware of what you were trying to avoid in the first place. That's what I'm saying. It's not you avoiding a donut.
Sure.
It's like, holy shit. This is when I do this with people, they go, Dr. Goldman, I feel alone. That's what it is. I feel alone. And I go, great. We're about to have some massive self-love. Let's go sit in alone now. And sitting in
that's really hard. I think.
Oh my God.
Being alone is a hard emotion.
It is if you stop it at the high point or the low point of the wave. All the emotions are hard if you do that. But I can tell you that alone is the one thing that got me to massive self-love and appreciation. It's the only thing that got me there. So it's like the way out is the way through. It's the thing we don't want to do that we need to do. Like the thing, who wants to go, I'm alone, I'm going to go sit on the couch alone. It sounds like depressing, but you end up loving yourself when you do it.
Wow. So fascinating. This is, I'm like trying to digest and process everything that we've gone through. It's been
right.
a lot of information. So if somebody wants to work with you, where can they find you?
So fast40weightloss.com. And I'm currently building, you can look up Dr. Cody Goldman on YouTube. We're building a big YouTube channel with this because this information isn't out there in the weight loss. I'm going to blow away Jenny and Craig Weight Watchers. I want to make sure
I can tell why.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course on Amazon, the 4 Secrets to Healthy Weight Loss is we have a section there that you would love. It's the fourth secret is called the emotional rewire. So I think it's a great little section.
Okay. All right. But I'm assuming that all 4 steps kind of go hand in hand with each other.
You do. It's exactly what I do with people. The last 20 years, I've had people literally rewire themselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and come out of it going, I lost weight, but I'm eating on time. I feel good. I'm healthy. My disease process has gone down. We see almost every single person's blood pressure. I had a lady just last week. She lost, I think it was 25 pounds in 40 days.
That's incredible.
On day 20, she started noticing her blood pressure was dropping. She had high blood pressure and she's taking blood pressure pills. Okay. Blood pressure starts dropping. And she goes, Dr. Goldman, what should I do? And I said, we might want to talk to your doctor because you're taking blood pressure pills to lower it.
You don't want to pass out.
Now, yeah, exactly. She calls her doctor and he said, absolutely. I've got the first appointment I have is January 2025. I'm not exaggerating. And this is a month ago. And so I thought, okay, what do I do now? I said, well, I don't want to say her name, but you maybe find another doctor. And she goes, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to stop taking them. And I said, okay, just be easy with this. She said, I'm done. This is a month ago. She's like, I'm just done taking them because she started understanding I'm actually fixing the cause of the problem.
Yeah.
And the interesting piece of this is going to be another very triggering thing, which I love. We're getting messy. In the history of blood pressure medications, there's not one shred of evidence that you'll have less heart attacks and strokes on blood pressure pills as off. The same amount of people die from heart attacks and strokes while taking blood pressure pills. So why the F are we taking?
No, exactly. And then in your client's case, as was in mine, I'm sure she started to experience lightheadedness, dizziness, fainting, things like that. And that's just dangerous. So
it is.
Yeah, good for her. What a great story. Congratulations to her. That's amazing. And to your program. This has been, are you on social media? Are you on Instagram?
Yeah, we have, you'll see on Instagram, Facebook, it's Fast 40 by Dr. Cody Goldman. I was off social media. I hated it for a while. And then I said, you know what? we need to start giving the message out to people. So yeah,
sort of a necessary evil.
it really is. It's really important. And yeah. So I've TikTok, we post all of our weight loss transformations, a lot of our podcast clips. There's a lot of amazing stuff on there.
That's great. Well, I hope, I wish you all the best and everything that you're doing. I'm very intrigued and, just like I said, processing everything that we've gone through. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time to come on our messy podcast. So I appreciate it.
I appreciate your questions, and I appreciate, you have such a great energy as a woman.
Thank you.
And such there was really a lot of balance inside you.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I mean, if we had more time, I'd probably, keep you here 4 hours, but we don't have the time.
We can do it again. Let me know. You send me a message. We'll do it again.
I'd love to have you on again. And maybe we can get technical into more specific things. That would be great.
Yes. I think that'd be really good. I agree.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Golman. I really appreciate it. And good luck with everything.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to Everything's Messy podcast. If you enjoyed the mess you heard here today, if you wouldn't mind leaving a review or maybe a follow, I will even take a messy comment, or otherwise, that would be awesome. Social media is where you can find me. I am on Instagram and Facebook at Everything's Messy Wellness. Website is at everythingsmessy.com. Email at sarah@everythingsmessy.com. Reach out. Let me know what you think of the mess. I welcome any and all feedback. If you think you have a messy story and you would like to be a guest on my show, you can find the guest form on the website. Thanks again for listening to Everything's Messy podcast, and keep it messy.